There's a map that did not exist 6 days ago. On February 28th, that map had 2 countries on it, the United States and Israel. As of Thursday morning, March 5th, 2026, day 6 of Operation Epic Fury, that map now includes Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE, Israel, Lebanon, Cyprus, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. 13 countries in 6 days. That is not a regional conflict expanding at the edges. That is a war consuming an entire geography faster than any diplomat, any intelligence assessment, or any operational plan modeled before the first bomb fell. And the country that was added to that map on Thursday morning, the country that nobody had on their list of potential theaters, is sitting on NATO's border. This is Strategic Warfare Report. If you've been following this war since day one, you already know we track what the briefing rooms aren't saying. If you're new here, subscribe right now. Because what happened in the last 24 hours just changed the geometry of this entire conflict in ways that Europe is only beginning to understand. Let's go. At approximately noon local time on Thursday, 8 a.m. GMT, an Iranian drone struck the passenger terminal of Nakhchivan International Airport. A second drone landed near a school building in the village of Shakarabad. 2 civilians were injured. The airport terminal was damaged. Emergency crews were photographed on site. Video from the scene, acquired by Euronews, shows the drone flying toward the terminal and the aftermath of impact. Nakhchivan is not in Iran. It is not in Iraq. It is not in the Gulf. Nakhchivan is an autonomous exclave of Azerbaijan, a piece of Azerbaijani territory separated from the main country by Armenia. It borders Iran to the south. It borders Turkey to the northwest. Turkey is a NATO member. Azerbaijan's Ministry of Defense confirmed the strike, then confirmed something more specific. Technical monitoring systems confirmed that 4 unmanned aerial vehicles belonging to Iran's armed forces were directed toward the Nakhchivan region to carry out attacks. Not 1 drone, 4 drones from Iran, directed at Azerbaijani territory. 4. Azerbaijan's foreign minister summoned Iran's ambassador in Baku for a formal protest. The ministry demanded a full explanation and declared that the Azerbaijani side reserves the right to take appropriate retaliatory measures. Then, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev convened his Security Council and made a statement that goes far beyond diplomatic language. But today, Iran committed an act of terror against the territory of Azerbaijan, against the state of Azerbaijan. Iranian officials must provide an explanation. An apology must be offered. Those who committed this terrorist act must be held criminally liable. Aliyev put his military on full combat readiness. That phrase, full combat readiness, is a technical term. It is not rhetoric. It is a formal military posture change that puts Azerbaijani armed forces in a state prepared for potential engagement. Iran denied it. Iran's armed forces issued a statement saying they deny having launched any drones toward the Republic of Azerbaijan. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi called his Azerbaijani counterpart and insisted Tehran was not responsible, suggesting Israel may have been trying to provoke regional friction. But Azerbaijan's defense ministry did not accept that. Their statement said Iran's obvious denial was unacceptable and demanded that those responsible be punished by Iranian authorities. And here is what makes the denial structurally impossible for any analyst to accept at face value. Iran's deputy foreign minister, Garib Abadi, gave an interview to Azerbaijani media channel Anuzed just minutes after the attack. He said, and these are documented words, that it is not the policy of the Islamic Republic of Iran to target neighboring countries unless the military bases of our adversaries are active there and are used to attack Iran. That is not a denial. That is a conditional. It says Iran does not target neighbors unless those neighbors are hosting enemies. And Iran has been publicly accusing Azerbaijan for years of doing exactly that. Al Jazeera's Rasul Serdar confirmed what every regional analyst already knows. Iran has long been accusing the Azeri government of turning Azerbaijan. Now let's understand why this specific strike is more geopolitically significant than any of the strikes in the Gulf over the last 6 days. The Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, they all host American military bases. They all allowed American jets to take off from their soil. Iran treats them functionally as co-belligerents and targets them accordingly. That logic, however brutal, has an internal consistency. Azerbaijan did not participate in Operation Epic Fury. Azerbaijan did not allow American jets to use its territory for strikes on Iran. Azerbaijan is not a member of the coalition in any formal or informal sense. Azerbaijan is a Muslim-majority country, a neighbor. A country that Azerbaijan's own foreign minister told Iran, in a phone call with his Iranian counterpart, cannot be used against neighboring and friendly Iran. And Iran struck its airport anyway. That is a different category of strike. It is a strike against a non-participant. And here's the geography that makes the category change terrifying for European capitals. Azerbaijan shares a border with Iran. Azerbaijan also has a formal defense treaty with Turkey. the 2021 Shusha Declaration, which commits Turkey and Azerbaijan to consult and take joint action if either country believes its security is under threat from a third state. Turkey is a NATO member if Azerbaijan invokes the Shusha Declaration, if Turkey responds, if Turkey, Article 5 territory, is drawn into a military confrontation with Iran over the Nakhchivan strikes. NATO is in the war, not by invitation, by treaty obligation. This is not a hypothetical. It is the operational architecture of the alliances that were just triggered by drones that hit an airport terminal at noon on a Thursday. Now let's add what happened to Turkey the day before. Wednesday, Turkish authorities confirmed that a ballistic missile fired from Iran toward Turkish airspace was destroyed by NATO air and missile defense systems over the eastern Mediterranean after the missile passed Syria and Iraq. NATO air defense destroyed an Iranian ballistic missile headed for Turkey. Iran denied firing that missile too, saying it had intended to hit Cyprus, an EU member, not Turkey. That explanation did not reassure Ankara. Turkish President Erdogan said Turkey was taking all necessary precautions in consultation with NATO allies and was issuing warnings in the clearest possible terms to prevent similar incidents. Turkey's foreign minister called his Azerbaijani counterpart on Thursday after the Nakhchivan strikes and said Turkey strongly condemns the drone attacks and will continue to stand by Azerbaijan as it always has. The 2021 Shusha Declaration is a formal legal instrument. It is not a press statement. And Thursday's airport strike in Nakhchivan just moved it from theoretical to operational. Now let's look at what Europe was doing for the 48 hours before the Azerbaijan strike, because this is the story that the Nakhchivan drones landed on top of. European governments were told of the US and Israeli strikes on Iran, according to a senior European Parliament member named Hannah Neumann, chair of the Delegation for Relations with Iran, with just minutes of advance notice. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, the leader of the EU's largest economy, was informed just minutes before the bombs fell. Not hours, minutes. That is the consultation process between the world's most powerful military alliance and its European partners for the largest American military operation in 23 years. Minutes. And now, 6 days later, those same European partners are deploying warships, fighters, frigates, and air defense systems across the Mediterranean in a cascade that is happening faster than any NATO planning cycle was designed to accommodate. Let's document exactly what Europe has committed in the last 72 hours, because the list is longer than any single headline has captured. The United Kingdom sent HMS Dragon, one of the Royal Navy's 6 Type 45 air defense destroyers, to Cyprus. It is fitted with a Sea Viper missile system capable of launching 8 missiles in under 10 seconds. British Wildcat helicopters with Martlet anti-drone missiles deployed alongside it. France ordered the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier, its flagship, to set course for the Mediterranean. President Macron announced this personally, saying he was also dispatching additional air defense assets to Cyprus. A French frigate arrived in Cyprus Tuesday evening. Greece sent its newest frigate, the Kimon, described as the most advanced vessel in the Greek Navy, delivered from French shipyards only in December, along with a Hydra-class frigate and 2 F-16 Viper fighters. Italy's defense minister, Guido Crosetto, told Parliament on Thursday that Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands would send naval assets to protect Cyprus in the coming days. Spain confirmed it would send its most advanced frigate. The Netherlands that is 6 European nations, the UK, France, Greece, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, deploying active warships and fighters to the eastern Mediterranean in response to Iranian strikes on a British NATO base in Cyprus. And Iran has already warned them. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghaei said this publicly. Any military action against Iran would be treated as a declaration of war. Any such act against Iran would be regarded as complicity with the aggressors. 6 European navies, 1 Iranian warning, 1 formula for escalation that no alliance treaty was designed to manage cleanly. Now let's look at what the Nakhchivan strike adds to that formula. Before Thursday, Europe's military deployments were defensive, protecting Cyprus, protecting Allied bases, shooting down Iranian drones and missiles that were aimed at their assets. Azerbaijan is not Cyprus. Azerbaijan is not a NATO base. Azerbaijan is not an EU member, but Azerbaijan is Turkey's treaty partner. And Turkey is NATO Article 5 territory. The drone that hit Nakhchivan airport at noon on Thursday did not just injure 2 civilians and damage a terminal ceiling. It activated a legal chain that runs from Nakhchivan to Baku to Ankara to Brussels. Every NATO foreign minister is reading that chain right now. Al Jazeera's reporter in Turkey, Rasul Serdar, said it simply, Iran is engaging in a conflict with neighboring countries, the Gulf, Turkey, and now Azerbaijan. The Gulf, Turkey, Azerbaijan, each one a different category, each one a step further from the original battlefield. Each one a step closer to a NATO decision point that the alliance's architects never modeled for a war that started with American jets taking off from Gulf bases on a Saturday morning. Now let's go inside the specific geography of Nakhchivan, because understanding why Iran struck this specific territory explains what Iran is actually trying to achieve. Nakhchivan borders Iran to the south. It borders Turkey to the northwest. It was also the subject of a U.S. brokered peace deal signed last year between Armenia and Azerbaijan, a land corridor officially named the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, also known as the Zangezur Corridor. This corridor would connect Azerbaijan proper to its Nakhchivan exclave through Armenian territory. Iran has opposed this corridor since it was first proposed. The reason is strategic. Iran's northern border access to Armenia and the wider Caucasus region depends on the current geography. A Zangezur corridor that allows Azerbaijan, and through Azerbaijan, potentially Turkey, Israel, and the United States, direct land access through the southern Caucasus cuts Iran off from its northern buffer. Iran's foreign minister warned about this corridor publicly last year. Iran's military commanders named it a red line, and last year, when the deal was signed, the one that Trump branded with his own name, Iran filed its objection not diplomatically but strategically, by positioning this northern border as a future target if Azerbaijan did not pull back. On Thursday, the positioning became operational. The Nakhchivan airport strike is not random. It is not a stray drone that wandered into Azerbaijani airspace. It is a message sent to the specific piece of territory at the center of Iran's northern strategic calculation, delivered at the exact moment when Iran's attention is supposed to be focused on the Gulf. That is the behavior of a military conducting a multi-front campaign by design, not reacting, executing. Now let's look at what Canada's position on Thursday morning tells you about how far this has spread beyond the original theater. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, in Australia for a state visit when the question was put to him, was asked whether Canada could categorically rule out military involvement in the Iran conflict. His answer was this: "You've asked a fundamental hypothetical in a conflict that can spread very broadly. One can never categorically rule out participation. We will stand by our allies when it makes sense. Canada, Australia, a press conference, a question about a war that started 6 days ago in the Persian Gulf." Carney could not rule out Canadian military participation. Australia's Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, standing next to him, said the world wants to see a de-escalation and wants to see Iran cease to spread the destinations of its attacks. Cease to spread the destinations. That phrase, spread the destinations, is the most precise description of what Iran is doing on day 6 of this war. The Gulf was one destination. Israel was another, Lebanon is a third, Cyprus is a fourth, Turkey is a fifth, Azerbaijan is the sixth. Each destination adds a new set of actors. Each new actor adds a new set of treaty obligations. Each treaty obligation adds a new set of escalation thresholds. And Iran is spreading destinations faster than any of those actors can convene a meeting to decide how to respond. Now, let's look at what Italy's intelligence service published, because this is the document that was written before anyone knew it would matter this much this fast. Italy's annual intelligence report for 2026, prepared by the DIS, Direzione Informazioni per la Sicurezza, stated before Operation Epic Fury began that a widening of the Middle East conflict, especially toward Iran, could accentuate in the near future the risks of propagation of the terrorist risk in Europe. The report specifically warned that jihadist propaganda could exploit a conflict involving Tehran by invoking a global jihad against the Western common enemy. That report was written before the war, published this week, and it is now the active threat framework that European intelligence services are operating inside. Italy's defense minister told Parliament Thursday that it feared an increase in terrorism across Europe and Italy, specifically targeting Israeli or American targets, as a direct consequence of the widening conflict. Inside Italy itself, lawmakers from Sicily, which hosts Naval Air Station Sigonella, a key NATO surveillance hub with more than 2,000 U.S. service members, raised the question of whether the island itself could become an Iranian target. One five-star MEP, named Giuseppe Antocci, warned publicly that Sicily cannot be used as a base for aggression. Some residents have already left for the Italian mainland. Sicily, the Italian mainland. European residents evacuating because an Iranian missile might come. That is what 6 days of expanding destinations looks like from inside Europe. Now let's look at what the European alliance is doing to itself in the process of responding. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz sat next to Trump in the Oval Office on Tuesday and remained mostly silent while Trump called British Prime Minister Starmer not Winston Churchill. Trump threatened a full U.S. trade embargo on Spain because Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez refused to allow American use of Spanish bases and publicly criticized the war. Sanchez responded, "We're not going to be complicit in something that's bad for the world simply to avoid reprisals from someone." The someone is the United States president. France's Macron declared the strikes were conducted outside the framework of international law. Germany's Merz said this is not the moment to lecture allies while working behind the scenes, according to the Christian Science Monitor, to wean Germany off its dependence on U.S. protection. The UK allowed American jets to use its bases for defensive strikes. Spain refused. France condemned the strike's legality while deploying the Charles de Gaulle. Germany quietly relocated its troops from Iraqi bases to air raid shelters on day one. A senior European Parliament member told CNBC that Europe has found itself on the sidelines of a war that could destabilize its energy supply, its security architecture, and its relationship with Washington simultaneously. Former Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt told CNBC, "What we are seeing now is not a great picture of the coherence of U.S. policies. This is something decided in very uncertain ways by the president." That assessment, from a former NATO-aligned leader, reflects the private calculation running in every European foreign ministry on Thursday morning. They were told minutes before the bombs fell. They were not consulted on the target list. They were not informed of the operational timeline. And now their military assets are being deployed to protect a British base on Cyprus. Their frigates are sailing toward a Mediterranean they have not militarized in decades. Their intelligence services are warning of domestic terrorism risk. Their legislators are questioning whether their own territory could become targets. And a conflict that started in the Persian Gulf has placed drones near a school in Azerbaijan 24 hours ago. France's Macron went further than any European leader has gone yet. He announced an increase to France's nuclear arsenal in direct response to the widening conflict, then said France would launch a program to distribute French nuclear deterrence assets across the continent. 8 countries, the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, and 5 others, expressed interest in hosting French nuclear capabilities. Let that sit for one moment. France just offered to extend its nuclear umbrella across Europe because an American military operation in the Persian Gulf has reached Azerbaijan and is pointing toward Turkey. Now let's reconstruct the pattern that ties every destination together, because this is not a series of random strikes. Day 1, Iran strikes the Gulf, Israel American bases across 6 countries. Day 2, Iran fires the Fatah II hypersonic for the first time in combat. Day 3, Iran strikes British RAF Akrotiri base in Cyprus. An EU member's territory is hit. Day 4, NATO air defenses intercept an Iranian ballistic missile headed toward Turkey. A NATO member is the next destination. Day 5, Iran strikes Iraqi militia groups launch drones into Jordan. The orbit widens. Day 6, Iranian drones hit Nakhchivan airport in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan's army goes to full combat readiness. Turkey invokes its treaty language. Each day, a new destination. Al Jazeera's reporter said it out loud. Iran is engaging in conflict with neighboring countries, the Gulf, Turkey, and now Azerbaijan. Iran's deputy foreign minister gave the conditional that explained all of it. We do not target neighbors unless their territory is being used against us. That conditional, applied to Iran's current targeting logic, means every country in the region that has any relationship with the United States, Israel, or the Zangezur corridor is inside Iran's conceptual targeting envelope. That is not a regional war. That is an expanding threat radius that is now 24 hours from the Caucasus, 72 hours from NATO's Article 5 boundary, and inside the terrorism risk assessment of a European intelligence report that predicted exactly this trajectory before the first bomb fell. The U.S. Senate voted down a bill on Thursday that would force Trump to get congressional authorization to expand the war. The House is voting on a twin bill the same day. Defense Secretary Hegseth said on Wednesday that America is just getting started. Iran's IRGC says its operation will continue relentlessly until the enemy is decisively defeated. 6 European navies are sailing toward the eastern Mediterranean. Azerbaijan's army is on full combat readiness. Canada's Prime Minister cannot rule out participation. France is distributing its nuclear deterrent, and the map that had 2 countries on it 6 days ago now has 13. Share this video right now to everyone tracking this conflict. Iran struck Azerbaijan's Nakhchivan airport on Thursday with 4 drones confirmed by Azerbaijani technical monitoring. 2 civilians were injured. Azerbaijan declared full combat readiness and demanded a criminal prosecution. Iran denied it. Turkey's treaty with Azerbaijan commits Ankara to respond if Azerbaijan's security is threatened. Turkey is NATO. NATO. Article 5 is now one Azerbaijani decision away from activation. France ordered the Charles de Gaulle carrier group to the Mediterranean. Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, Greece, and the UK have all deployed naval and air assets. 6 European navies moved in 72 hours. Iran's deputy foreign minister gave a conditional, not a denial. We do not target neighbors unless they host our enemies. And France has offered to extend its nuclear deterrent across Europe in response to a war that started in the Persian Gulf 6 days ago. This is Strategic Warfare Report. We track every destination this war opens.